Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the Miles with Moms podcast. Hey guys.
Hi.
How's it going?
All right.
Good.
Good. Well, hey,
Good.
this is a podcast for moms who run by moms who run. And today we are talking about a really important topic. We have a special guest here, Leah Avery, to talk about creating an environment for safe sport. It's a very important episode for parents of kids active in sports, and she's going to share signs of what to look out for to protect our kids. We'll also discuss how to foster a healthy balance for our kids between sport and identity, and how to ensure their sport doesn't become their identity. But before we get into that and learn more about Leah, I am one of your co-hosts. I am Whitney.
I'm Olivia.
I'm Shanna.
I'm Leah.
And Leah is here. So how are you guys doing? It's been a while. We haven't recorded in a few weeks, actually.
I know. It's been a while.
The audience doesn't know that. It's been a while. It's been several weeks, and I feel like so much happened. So how's summer going?
Oh man.
Yeah, I know. Do you want to kick it off? You've been busy.
I'll kick it off. I'll say that it's been busier than I wanted it to be, I think. And kind of rocky. To be honest, I don't love summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then with that comes I don't know, a feeling of shame, because it's supposed to be this carefree, fun time. We're making memories, but it's also the lack of routine and too much togetherness, and the onus is on you to entertain them, and you're, just arbitrating, or you're the arbiter of fights. And, but this week was good. It slowed down, and I felt like we had a good mixture of fun and chill, and lots of friends coming over and playing, and that made the kids happy.
Cute.
And then also kind of took the pressure off me, which was nice. So there's my honest answer.
I mean, is
summer.
anything as a mom actually carefree? I don't think we do anything. I don't think we even rest carefree. I think we're always what's going on, So, and then adding on everything on top of it that you're trying to get done, and then you're supposed to enjoy things, and then it's did I even slow down for a second to enjoy it? So it's I don't think as a mom anything is actually carefree.
That's so true. I've told you guys that I've done that hypnotherapy with my friend. Christina Honkanen hypnosis. But in the very beginning, it's basically a guided meditation, and you're supposed to be in a happy place when you start, where you're totally carefree. And I cannot get there, because I'm the only way that I could be carefree is to go back in time and not be a mom.
Yeah,
which is just wild. So I got lots of work to do, apparently. But
yeah.
But you're settling into your new home, Olivia?
Yeah. Yes, everything has been good. I honestly, it's so weird. Even just relating this to the podcast, it's weird going and watching YouTube videos of recording in the other house. It's it was me, but it wasn't, It's I look at pictures of my children in the home, and I'm I remember being there, and I remember doing this, but it's almost like someone else's memory, and I'm just looking at the pictures of people that I love so much. Yeah, it's the most strange thing. It's I feel like it was oh, this is such a cute Airbnb, but we didn't actually like it where we were vacationing, is what it feels like, And so honestly, it's so strange. My husband and I, it's we had hit pause on our life, and then now we have resumed it, and we both are busy all the time, but just not with anything new, just all the things that we've always done, kind of. So yeah, it's been great. I can give you a weather update. It is actually very windy here today.
It is my weather update.
I know. So it's 100-something degrees, but oddly enough, we're recording and it's windy out today.
Is it really that hot? It's 100-something?
Oh,
yeah.
That's normal here too, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's what? It's humid?
It's normal here.
Oh, that's normal?
Yeah.
Is it dry? You don't get humidity.
Very dry. Yeah, very dry.
And then is it cool in the morning, though, when you guys go run?
Not crisp. No.
No.
Not today. Definitely not today. I was like, oh, it's like it was like 75 right when we started. And then the sun comes up and it heats up fast. So it's super weird because like there's days where we'll see like a 30 to 40 temperature swing and but it's all hot, which is wild. So
it is wild.
yeah. But I mean, we don't have the humidity, and that is honestly a really big saving grace because we can pretty much be outside even though it's hot, but
And
you can be
windy
outside
sometimes.
and windy. Not as bad as where I lived before. It was just so funny because like we always talk about like every day when my husband and I are talking about the weather, we're like looking at the weather app for where we used to live and be like, wind gusts up to 35 miles per hour, and we're like, but not here. And then like today it actually is pretty windy. I was like, oh, Whitney will love to hear about this.
The wind with you.
Seriously. No. No. So everything's been good though. It's like I don't know. It's just been like so positive, and yeah, we've just had so much fun, and like play dates are in full action, and it's just entertaining the kids. The kids are on their devices so much less than they ever were before, and that's been huge. Like huge change in well, Charlotte has been fine, but Grayson's personality, like he just just creativity comes out so much more when they're not on their devices. So yeah, it's been good.
Which means less mom guilt for you too. And
yes, hugely less. It's crazy. Hugely less. I don't even know if that's a sentence.
I don't know. It makes sense to me. We're right in the same wavelength, I think. So
Good.
It felt like a really long chapter when you were in it, and now you, in retrospect, you're like, that was a really short chapter that we lived there, and I may forget the whole thing.
Yes, like it's so crazy how you can. Like, it's such a weird way to look at your life too. And just like, be like, I remember it, but I also am like, I want to forget it, in a way. And like, I never stopped living my life here in so many ways, but I'm really glad like that I spoke up and made the push. It's funny listening to old episodes though. And I'm like, oh, I was talking about how I didn't like it up there in like October, like right from the start, just I was like, I don't know if I like it here. And I would tell anybody too, because I was talking to my brother-in-law and he was like, oh yeah, you definitely told me in like October you don't think you like it. And I was like, that's crazy, because I barely even was registering it. But anyways.
You were trying really hard to be open-minded.
I was. Not hard enough, but I was, yeah. Yeah.
Shanna, how's it going for you?
It's going. I feel a lot of the same thing that you feel, Whitney. Like a lot of like that mom guilt. Like, am I giving them enough summer fun memories? But then I hear comments like today where my kids were like, "Where are we going today?" And I'm like, nowhere, because I have to podcast record maybe later after this, but it's like I doubt it. And they were like so excited about that because we've literally been going everywhere like every day since summer started. Like I will take them to a pool, a splash pad. We just like rotate. But I swear, you guys, every time I go out that door, it doesn't matter how well I plan. And Olivia knows, like I plan snacks to a T. It is like easily $100 every time I go out the door. I'm like, I can't keep up with this. This is really expensive. But anyways, yeah, summer has felt like a grind, and I'm kind of in the same boat where I'm like, I love having my kids here, and I love the like flexibility of going to do whatever we want to do and have the slow mornings and everything like that. But I am so excited for like the routine of school and just like everybody back on a schedule, because even nighttime is really hard. Like my older kids are going to bed till like almost 10 now. And it's like, it's throwing me off. I'm already like, I already get little sleep. I'm like 6-hour sleeper. And now I'm like down to like 5 hours. And my body's not thriving well on it. So
I think that's totally what it is for me. Cause like, I have to run early because I have to get it done before, and we're going to bed so late. And I just am like not a pleasant, optimistic person when I'm tired. And then like my body's not feeling good running. And so, and I don't know. I'm just way more fun and patient when I get that rest. So I totally feel you on that. And then being busy is wonderful, getting out of the house, but then that's tiring, It's like, it's a lot of effort, especially when you have 6 kids.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, they're all kind of close in age, so like a pool will suffice all of them. But yeah, beyond that, it's just like every day coming up with something new. I just remember Olivia like complaining about this, like during the school year, you're like, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my kids today. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like that right now. I'm like, what am I going to do with all 6 kids today that they're all going to want to go do together, you know? But so it's just a lot of forcing. I'm like, you'll be happy once we get there. You'll get over it.
What makes it easier for me to get my kids to agree? And I only have 2, but they disagree on, they'll fight over air. Like legitimately is trying to bring friends along wherever we go. Like that makes such a difference.
But guys, that's why play dates are like the best thing. Cause I'm not gonna lie, I don't like picking up kids and having 10 kids on my own. I've done that and that's been wild. But like play dates, like we'll go meet up for play dates and like another parent will be there. That's ideal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes it a lot easier.
Especially if it's a parent you like.
Yeah. Sometimes. That you sometimes like.
That you can tolerate.
Oh my gosh. Rude.
90% of our play dates is with Olivia. So
right.
We love their family, so we're pretty lucky.
The other day we piled up her van and we took a 3-hour road trip with our kids. My husband was like, what are you doing? I was like, I have no idea. She had the plans. I was like, we're just going along for the ride. So we had 8 kids in tow and
we're told, I think we're both type B when it comes to traveling.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We were both like, so what's the plan? We're just driving up north for 3 hours.
Yeah.
We're playing a splash pad.
I was like,
you drove 3 hours to go to a splash pad?
Pretty much. I was like, do I need a swimsuit? And I grabbed one really quick out of the trunk of my car. And honestly, I would have stopped at a gas station and grabbed one. It would have been fine.
Is it the swimsuit that made you think you should become a triathlete? In a past episode, Olivia shared that she got like a really good deal on a swimsuit from TJ Maxx, and she was like, "Look at this great swimsuit! I should become a triathlete." And then was seriously considering it. I think until Matt, her husband, was like, "This is dumb.
This is not a reason to become a triathlete." Also, you can barely swim across, which I can barely swim. However, I got a pair of goggles. And I was also, again, like, could I be, if there was, which, I like recorded a swim on my watch. And then I was like, I honestly don't know what to do with the data. Like, I don't know what's fast. I don't know any of it.
Leah, it was a competitive swimmer.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, yeah, I have so much respect for swimmers because it's like, it seems like, okay, it's something that we all can do for the most part. Like you learn to swim and then you're like, oh, it's great exercise. I can swim back and forth until you swim like one time back and forth and you're like, this is so much more work than I could have ever thought. And then I didn't know any of the yards and how many minutes per yard or whatever. I was like, I don't know what to do with any of this. And
I feel like 1 minute in the pool swimming is like, it feels like 10 minutes of running. I don't know. Anytime I've had to swim, I'm like, God, I must have been in there for an hour and it's 10 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is a perfect segue to Leah.
There you go. Beautiful. We just teed it right up for you, Shanna.
Well, let's hope I don't butcher on my side of it. All right. So we have Leah Avery, right? Yep. On the podcast. She's seen on Instagram as leah.runs.dpt. Leah has been practicing PT for over a decade, which is also when she began her running career. Prior to that, she was a competitive swimmer starting at the age of 8 and retired her senior year of college. During her career, she was a D1 All-American and competed at the Olympic trials. Holy shit.
Wow.
So insane.
That's crazy. I can't wait to talk more about that. Leah's athletic career was anything but linear, and she faced many hardships, which originally led her to a career in physical therapy. However, after starting her running career journey, it was clear she had an unhealthy relationship with athletics, largely because of as past as a young athlete. Her mission is to help runners reach their potential in a healthy manner by treating the person, not just the runner, and help them understand that running adds value to our lives, but is not what makes us valuable. I love that approach. That's awesome.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
We are so excited to talk to you, and it's such an important topic. And one, honestly, I think because we have younger kids, we hadn't thought about. And my kids are big soccer players, and my husband is their coach. He played D1 soccer, so we haven't had to have other coaches yet. And so I'm really excited to dive into this topic. Would you feel open to discussing how, your swimming background and your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, like Shanna said, I was a swimmer from the age of 8 to my senior year of college, which is a very long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say primarily like the time that the things were the worst was when I was in high school. And that's kind of why I wanted to, reach out to you guys, because I have some friends that are runners and they have young kids and they are good, and they say, I don't really know how to navigate this. And I've never really kind of spoken up about that as far as talking to the parent. I have a 5-year-old son, so I'm not there yet either, but just kind of approaching it from that, in that kids are getting good, and it is very different than when I swam. But yeah, just kind of helping people understand that a little more. So anyways, primarily when things got bad for me was my pretty much during high school. College was a little bit different, and I feel like there are a lot more regulations in college, somewhat. But yeah, high school was where things got different, and I'd never actually competed for my high school. I swam for a club team, so that's also very different. And I think that there are more things in play for high school sports and things like that when you're actually through the school. But club sports is a little bit different. But my story is different in that I know a lot of people come from, like, a lot of times when people talk about their childhood sport, it was their parents that put a lot of pressure on them, and that's one thing. But mine was kind of the opposite spectrum, in that my swimming meant so much to me that my parents just kind of stepped back and was like, you do whatever you need to do. They were supportive in that they, swimming is not a cheap sport at all. Really, no sport is. But yeah, so they just kind of really stepped back and said, okay, this is so important to her. Do whatever you need to do. And so that kind of end of the spectrum is a little bit different, because that's where I don't want to say that they weren't paying attention, but their eyes were kind of hidden to what was really going on. Yeah. And so, as far as kind of, well, we can get into more of that as far as like deeper questions and things to look at. But yeah, so basically my coach had a very strong control over me my entire high school career. And really what it comes down to, and this is why I talk about like the value, and we shouldn't view our sport as what makes us valuable, because that's what it was to me. And he knew that. And so with that, he used that against me, in that he could literally get me to do anything, because I would do it because I wanted to be such a good swimmer. And so, that's really, like I said, what we can kind of talk about a little bit more, but just making sure that the child knows that if they ever needed to step away, that wouldn't change anything about them personally. To me, it was that I was a swimmer and that was it. And if I had to stop, then like I would be worthless. And I just couldn't fathom that. And I think just really as a parent, letting them know that if you need to quit, it doesn't say anything about you. Or if you need to step back and not even use the word quit, because quit is harsh, but just really letting them know that it doesn't completely define them. It's really kind of the baseline where this starts, I think.
Can you share what some of the controlling things he had over you? And then from a parent's perspective, like what would they have been able to notice if they were paying attention that they didn't?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is that the treatment that I was getting was so much different than everybody else. And I think that and through the other swimmers' eyes, I think they all saw it. And there were other coaches on the team, but he had so much power that they couldn't say anything. And I am not saying this to be braggy or anything like that, but I was the best one on the team, and I came from a small town in Missouri this was when I was in high school. And so I was very much a big fish in a little pond. And so I was untouchable. I was, the only one that had qualified for Olympics. I qualified for Olympic trials when I was 16. So it was just like, I was
oh my gosh,
much better. Not saying that to say anything about me.
It's a fact. I mean,
just to understand the level that I was at. So with that, I went to a lot of swim meets by myself. There were no other club members that had qualified. So I was by myself. So a lot of times I would swim in my own lane by myself. And I don't know if you've ever been to swim practice, but usually there's multiple people in one lane. But yes, the treatment that I was getting was just so much different than everyone else. So with that came a lot of praise, which, you love, but then it came with the other side of it, that if there was any error, I just, the things that I received were horrible. The way I was spoken to, unfortunately, I can't necessarily get into this, but there was definitely physical and sexual abuse, which is a tough topic. And, we don't have to go into that, but, those things too. But again, it was really just, if the parents could see that there was a different kind of treatment, that's really just a huge flag. And again, I really think it goes back to allowing the child to know that their identity is not in their sport, because that was one of the big reasons why I felt like I couldn't say anything. Because if I said something, it meant that I didn't care about my sport, or I couldn't continue with my sport. It was just going to ruin everything. And, I started at such a young age that letting that go was terrifying to me. So I truly felt trapped in it. And so I think letting the child know that they aren't trapped in it is huge.
Yeah. Did you, when you were in it and it was at the height of, yours, the Olympic trials and all of that, and the behavior was heightened, were you aware of how wrong or inappropriate it was? Or was that just normal because that's all you knew?
I definitely thought that it was abnormal, but at the same time, it was kind of felt like what I needed to do. It just was all so tied together. And that was what made it so difficult, was that I cared so much and it was so important to me, but I knew it was, I want to say wrong. And, we can talk about it took me, I'm 38 years old. It took me until I was 34 to tell my parents what had happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because that was my next question. Did you talk to your mom after or any? Yeah.
I didn't tell them for a really long time. Honestly, the first person I told was my husband after we had been married we've been married 12 years. I don't know. So maybe 6 or 7 years into our marriage.
Oh, goodness. Wow.
And so I carried a lot of guilt. I felt like it was my fault because I didn't say anything. I should have just said something. But again, when you're 16 years old and this is your entire life, you just feel like you can't say anything. And I think, like I said, I came from a different end of the spectrum as far as parents and pressure, but I think it kind of works the same, because I've heard of kids where their parents are putting a ton of pressure on them. So then they feel like they can't say anything at that end of it either, because they don't want to let their parents down. And there was some of that to me too, in that I felt like my parents they worked really hard and spent a lot of money on this. And so me throwing that away, I felt guilty for that too. So just letting the child know that none of that matters more than you and your safety is, huge.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And honestly, Instagram is the whole reason that I started to share my story, because I realized this is real and it happens so much.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. I mean, with the whole movement with Nike and the athletes with all that, I mean, I think that was it's sad that it's still not being respected, some of these stories, but the fact that these women came out and spoke up, I feel like it made a big movement in the culture of sports and things like that, and it made it okay, like, let's start talking about this. Like, this needs to be discussed, because this isn't just like in the running world. This is in, like you said, swimming world. We see a lot in the gymnast world as well. And it's really unfortunate, like, how long you had to sit with that alone. And like, I'm curious, like, what got you through like all those years? Because you were holding this information of trauma for so many years by yourself, practically, because you didn't really like have teammates that were with you. Like, you were always isolated, which makes sense why you were a victim of that situation, right? They usually try to isolate you from the group,
Yes.
and then they pawn on the thing that means most to you, and they hold it as like your weapon. And hey, if you don't do this, I'm going to take this away. And I'm curious, like how did you get to this point? Like, how were you able to, I don't want to say strong, because nobody should have to be strong through that. It's probably not the right word, but like, how did you push through that hardship?
Yeah, I mean, again, during the time, it was just kind of what I felt like I had to do. Like, it was kind of goes to that I have to suffer in order to be good. And then, in my 20s, and this, all of it's kind of tied into my running. And, I don't know how much you guys follow me, but I talk a lot about I had a lot of panic attacks during marathons that I tried to do. And it really came from all of that, because if I didn't swim well, it was horrible. I was called horrible names, and I was treated badly for weeks, and I would have to like stay after and do extra things, and just horrible, told I was a terrible person, and, all those things. So I carried that with me for such a long time. And then I started doing marathons, and then, I, started to get better, and then I wanted to get faster, and I wanted to qualify for Boston and do those kinds of things. And then it just overwhelmed me. And I had a panic attack in Chicago in 2021. And then it happened again in 2022. And I said, okay, I have to get help. And so I started going to therapy, and that's where I was able to like actually speak about it. And then honestly, it's funny that you say that about Nike. Kara Goucher came out with her book,
Yeah.
and I read it, and I just said, okay, I've got to say this now. And yeah, that was kind of when I came out and said it. And so her sharing that story, and I've reached out to her just via DM, but she's responded back to me and said like, thank you. Cause it is incredibly hard to say those things, and that's a huge platform. I'm not comparing myself to that by any means, but getting this out there is very healing for me as well, because, other people need to know about it. And unfortunately it is, very real. And the number of people that I have, when I put this out there kind of vaguely via Instagram, I get lots and lots of messages from other people that said it's happened to them, or they say, thank you for saying this. I'm worried about something with my child. And so it's very therapeutic for me to get this out there. I'll say that. But
That's
really running
so
is kind of what brought it all to the surface. So I could finally kind of get it out. Yeah.
I mean, obviously to people's comfort level, but just because trauma happened doesn't mean it needs to be kept a secret, and I think that because a lot of time with trauma there's shame, but it's like everybody's so connected in so many ways. And people joke so much about the words trauma bonding, it's like, oh, we just trauma bonded, but it's it comes from a very, very, very true, deep place, because people can bond, because I think so many people have shared experiences. And also when it comes to athletics, it's a very unique situation that it's hard to find people sometimes that have like competed or done things at the level, like you're like, I don't want to brag, but this is the level I was at. And it's like, sometimes you have to be very clear about how high level it is, because it intensifies a situation so much more. And that's where you are going to find the people that you can truly be open with, because otherwise it's, and yeah, that's just to be more concise, I guess it's like a true level of trauma bonding when you can actually share, and like then people can learn from the experience and know what to look out for. Because if you didn't share it, then like even we wouldn't be talking about it right now, and we do have young kids where it's like we need to be learning what to look out for. Because sometimes I worry about like myself, like I want my kids to be really, really good. And so if somebody was to take an interest, if like Grayson's great at soccer and I was to take an interest in it, like what level of interest are they taking in this kid, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think secrets, if you keep it to yourself, the shame is so much more intense. And
mm-hmm.
then when you do share, not only are you helping yourself and helping other people, like I'm so grateful that we're talking about this now at the age that our kids are, like before they might find themselves in these situations, so that we know what to look out for. But then you also, when you share, you often realize that you're not actually that unique. Like your situation is unique, but you find like Kara Goucher who are in similar situations, and it just, that's how you make change. That's how you turn something, as cheesy as it sounds, like something really awful into something good.
Mm-hmm.
So from a parent's perspective, like not being checked out of the process, kind of knowing the coach, and then keeping the conversation open with your kid about their experience, their interest level. I'm curious if your coach was two-faced. Like, were your parents surprised? Were they like, oh, but he came off as so charismatic and I had no idea? Kind of like Alberto Salazar, Like, was
Yeah.
it
And
that sort of situation?
yes. And that was I think the hardest thing for my parents is that he loved my parents, well, acted like he loved them, and they loved him. I mean, he would come over for dinners, like very much close with our family. And so that is something, those are things that you just kind of have to set the boundary, and things kind of as far as to look out for parents is, I don't know if there are rules about this now. Again, I only have a 5-year-old, but I don't believe that a coach should be able to text or anything if they're under the age of 18 privately. That's a big thing. I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe text them like with the parent or something like that. I don't know what rules there are there, and there may be different via each club, but things like that, that's where the kind of, I don't want to call it a relationship, but that's where like the seed was kind of planted, was that he reached out via text message. It just kind of made me feel, good about myself in that way. And then that's kind of where the control happened, and the grooming is very much a real thing. And that kind of goes with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, the clubs or whatever it is, having those guidelines where you're not allowed to message the coach on his own, or it has to be via email. I don't know. I know it's different for kids having phones and things these days.
Well,
But
social media makes it murky too, because
very much so.
coaches have their own accounts and probably message
Mhm.
kids that way too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole other gray area. But I think just kind of looking for the signs that, the treatment is different. That's a really, really big one. And I think just, again, going back to letting the child know that they can say anything and it doesn't ruin anything. That was my
Mm-hmm.
biggest fear, is that if I were to say something, it was going to ruin everything and I couldn't swim anymore and my career was gone. And, this was my, sophomore, junior, senior year of high school. So I'm trying to, get recruited and do all those things. And I didn't want to ruin any of that. And so just letting them feel safe that it's not going to be ruined.
That's such a sad thing to think about. Like I think about that a lot with, when I would keep things from my parents, I would be so worried that they would pull me from,
Mhm.
like, they were super reactionary sometimes and then sometimes not. And then they were never on the same page. And so like, if I was to say something to my mom, would she relay it to my dad? And then that would be the end of all of it. And I think that was always just so scary. But I think the phone thing is a very like unbelievably important thing. It's like I feel like that is so off limits for a grown man to be texting a 16-year-old child. It is, I don't care how athletic the person would be, that
Mhm.
is so inappropriate. You should always be looped in with a parent, because like it's like if a 16-year-old even has social media, you should technically as a parent be able to access that whenever, because the 16-year-old is a child. Like that's what's so hard, because I know that when you're 16 you think you know things, but you just don't. You barely are allowed to drive. So
Yeah. 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 And it just, never, that was, the things that came out about gymnastics and things like that, is they
mhm,
were alone with this person. So I think
mhm,
making those rules that you could never be alone with them, because it got to the point where it was, hey, let me pick you up for practice because to make it easier, things like
mhm.
that. Like they're just a huge no. And again, this was 20 years ago, so it's different now, but still, just those kinds of signs where isolation is happening. And that was the big thing, was the isolation for me. And whether it be those kinds of things as far as being alone in a room, or let me put you in your own lane, or, you know, whatever it looks like via any sports, or let me do a private practice with you, or, you know, things like that, so we can work on your form. You know, those kinds of things are scary. And I would be sitting right there, you know, and I don't mean this to say like you need to be a hovering parent by any means. It's just, you know, be aware.
Yeah, I think that's, you don't want to be like, think that every coach is going to be controlling or abusive or, you know, a pedophile, but, you know, just being engaged and being aware and like practicing common sense, and also just, I don't know, being intentional, like just not checking out. And okay. I mean, unfortunately, you can't be too trusting.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I think it really goes down to, yes, you obviously need to be aware of the coach, but I think making your child know that it's okay to say anything, you know. And I don't even think you have to make it, do you feel safe kind of thing. Just make it, you know that you're not just a runner or a swimmer or whatever you are a person outside of that, you know. And yes, this is important to you, but it's not your entire life.
Yeah. I think too, like, so I saw some situations growing up in club running myself, like with a personal friend of mine. We addressed this like probably 2 years ago. I was like, do you remember this time? And it was a family member of the said coach. And the son was like 19, 20, 21. And my friend was like 11 when she had received, some interaction that thankfully she was smart and never entertained, but she was a very developed girl at 11 years old, and anyways, it doesn't ever make it right. And looking back on that now as an adult with kids, I was like, oh my gosh, like, do you remember that time like that was not okay? That was very illegal. But as a kid, you don't think that, right? You think you're 11, you're 12, you're preteen, like, oh, this older man is hitting on me. That's normal, right? Like you don't think that that's not normal. But even in high school, like, there was another situation with another athlete who had one-to-one training for strength training. And there was some stuff that went down that I don't even know if she ever opened up to her parents. And just, being a parent just opens your eyes and makes you realize, like, wow, like, I cannot believe how common this is. Like, in my life, to see that multiple times, like, that's insane. And I come from my mom was at every one of my meets and at every one of my practices. And, it just, I think if the red flags are there for any parent, if your gut is even the slightest feeling like something is not right, or one-to-one coaching anywhere with an adult, even female, like female, or even there's some cases that are coming out, with public platforms right now with a female. And you just can't be too safe or too cautious. Like, I think it's okay to be cautious, and you'll never regret being too much of a over helicopter parent. Like, that's my approach. Like, just the things that I've seen at such a young age and like grew up in, I'm like, man, like, I'd rather be at every single one of my kids' meets and every single one of their practices, even if it's a one-to-one. I'm going to sit in that back corner and make sure, and I respect privacy, but also, hey, like, I'm involved in your life. If you have a phone, if you have devices, like, this is for protection, not for, I don't trust you, and laying that foundation with your kid and knowing that, like, they can come to you about everything. But that also, I think, comes with you have to build that relationship pretty early on, because if you do it in the situation when it's happening, it almost feels like you don't trust them, right? And I think it's so important that you talk about this and that it's heard by a lot of us parents who do have younger kids, because right now is the time to establish that trust. Like, I have a 9-year-old right now, and it makes me think about it like, wow, when I drop her off at karate and she, is alone in that room by herself, and I'm like, oh, she's fine, I'm going to go get a drink and come back, and I'm like, takes 5 minutes. Like, it literally does. And I know that's like maybe extreme to some people, but it does take 5 minutes for something to happen that you can wish that you could take back so it doesn't ruin your child's like childhood, you know?
Yeah.
Which is so tricky because, like, I mean, it just, you have 6 kids and you're carting them around, and it's like you can't be with all of them at all times. So, yeah, you have to have those conversations early of like, this is not appropriate. This, like, talk to me. This is what you do. Have a smart, a smartwatch that you can call me if, I'm curious, like, the 3 of you have in common that you all were, you're going to hate that I say this, but like athletic phenoms. Like, Olivia, you had your ballet, Shanna running, Leah swimming when you were younger. As a parent, like, how do you think it's best to kind of balance that innate drive that you have, that you want to be the best, versus this is not what your worth is based on?
Yeah.
Is there anything? Because it's so hard. I mean,
it's tough, and it's even something that I kind of struggled with when I got into running, and my husband had to kind of help rein me back in, and just say that this isn't your entire life. It is hard because even my 5-year-old son just started baseball, and he loves it so much. He just wants to like go outside and play it all the time, and I love that. But I just get, and then he doesn't hit a good one and he gets upset, which I believe that is a good thing to learn. And you need to learn how to fail, and those things are very good. But just setting the foundation of letting them know that it's okay to fail, and know that it's okay to want this very much, but also not let it control everything that you do. It is huge. But it is tricky. It's very tricky, because
I guess having more things than just that sport. So making sure they may have other hobbies, lots of times with friends, just like other extracurriculars, kind of widens the horizon for them.
I was just gonna say, I think for me, I just wish so badly. I'm so glad. I'm very torn in so many ways, because I'm so glad I had dance, because it kept me out of so much trouble. Like, I mean, like, I didn't want a boyfriend until I was like 28, because I was like, I don't want to get pregnant by looking at one, like, and like, I was like, no one's touching this. But in so many ways, I was like, I remember when I remember really, really wanting to play softball, and my mom, she was like, well, you can either play softball or you can move up a level in dance. And I was like, well, of course I want to go to dance. And it was like, I don't think she was doing anything wrong. I think she just wanted me to go in the direction of what I was better at. But I think if I would have maybe tried softball, I still would have come to that same conclusion, because I wouldn't have been good at softball, most likely, like, just based off of my attempts when I did in gym class and stuff. But I wish that I would have like been able to try other things, because like, I really struggle now, even at like when I'm running and stuff, it like, or when I try anything, I'm really bad at it. And so it makes me not want to try things. And then also that I like, whatever that one thing is, I do identify as that thing, like I'm a runner now, and it's like, I don't get paid to do this. I'm doing it for fun, and somehow it consumes me. But I really enjoy that. Like, I don't think it's, yeah. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just like, it comes from such an obsessive place that like, even now I really struggle with like, that I'm not the best, and like, it's this like innate thing in me because of how I was raised. So I think if I would have played other things, and just if they would have been like, let's let her try everything, because that's like always what we talk about with our kids, is like, let's let them try everything. Like, Charlotte's obsessed with dance, but she's going to also play soccer, she's going to do all these things, and if she doesn't like it, no biggie. Like, at least we had her give it a shot, just for some balance, because like, I got so good at dance that all of a sudden, like, I couldn't be good at anything else. I was like, I don't need a plan B, because I'm so good at my plan A. And like, that's such an unhealthy way to like be wired now, So I just think that trying everything is really important, because then also if you are concerned about coaches, you can be exposed to a lot of different kinds of coaches and a lot of different personalities and see which one your child can adapt to best. Because like I only do well with a lot of bluntness, because if somebody is like babying me, I'm like, I can't take them seriously, and it's because of this whole, like, all I knew was like Russian ballet teachers now, so it's just very, like, they're very intense. And so I like need that intensity for me to take anything super seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think like exposure to other sports and like other hobbies is good. Like one thing I wish I would have done was soccer. But again, I grew up in a family of 8. Like my parents were not wealthy. Like my dad didn't make decent money until like I was 16. Like, so I mean, being a mom of 6, I get it. Like you can only put your kids in so many sports when you have so many. But I do feel also like just simple validation, like letting your kid know that you love them. You're not going to punish them if they don't win a race or hit a record, that you know that they can. Like, I kind of relate a lot to you, Leah, because I grew up as like a very talented young runner, and like my identity, like I had coaches scouting me at the age of 7th and 8th grade. Like they were waiting for me to get into high school so that they can start recruiting me by my senior year. Like, it just was like I was getting letters in the mail my freshman year of high school. Like, and it was a lot of pressure. And I think when you're a people pleaser, especially, like you put a lot of your identity on that sport that you're best at, and then it does become your identity. And it's not that you purposely want it to be the only thing you're known for, but when you're in it at such a young age, that's kind of what you're molded into. And I think just the simple validation of like, hey, I love you. You can go suck today, and I could care less. Like, because at the end of the day, like us as parents, like I think our job is to just love our child. And it's the coach's job to maybe add in the input. Okay, here's where it could have gone better. Here's where, and then us as the parent, we can kind of guide and direct how much we want that coach to be involved with that critique or criticism. But had that just come from the coach, I think it could be a lot better with your kid. Just knowing that, like, okay, my parent is not critiquing on everything that I do, and they don't care. At the end of the day, they don't care if I run a PR. They don't care if I hit a record. They don't care if I win. If I get last, they will still be just as happy with a smile on their face that I finished. Like, I think that, for me personally, like that's something that I think could have or can help a lot. I don't know.
Leah, when you told your parents about it, what was there anything that they were like, oh, now looking back, did they have any hindsight at all about it? Or
yeah, I mean, they obviously, and I very much, preface it with, I don't want you to feel guilty. I think I really needed to wait until I was a parent to tell them, because I approached it very differently, because you know what it feels like to have mom guilt. It's so strong.
It's unreal.
Yeah. And I did not want them to feel guilty, but they definitely said, we knew that you were, we could tell that you were torn and miserable almost, but again, they just didn't feel like they could take me away from it. And I think a lot of it, talking about things you can help with your kids with in the beginning is, I was a type of person that was very much a people pleaser, and I lacked a lot of confidence. So I tried to gain my confidence from my sport. And, so getting that taken away from me was so scary. And so we're not trying to tell you how to be a parent, but just instilling in your child that, you don't need to be confident via the things you accomplish or the things that you do. It's about you. And like you said, we love you no matter what you do. And it never was the case with my parents that I wanted to please them, or I wanted them to love me more. They were wonderful parents. It was just, I lacked that inside. And so I was trying to make up for it.
Yes.
But yeah, it was tough on them, definitely. And I think, like I said, I think now they saw it. And I think my mom has said a few times, I wish I would have pulled you out, but I was afraid it was going to crush you. And, so she was torn too. And I really don't think that they knew what to do in that situation. And it was just so far into it that it was just, almost impossible, because it was, then I did it in college, and that was a whole nother thing. And then so
Yeah.
it was tough.
I'm sure I know your parents like were doing the very best that they could, and that's what they saw for you. Like that, and a lot of time, like even when they're little, you're like, I can't help you if you don't tell me what's wrong. And it's
Right.
like, if they don't know, and that's why I think that open line of communication is so important. And if you weren't feeling confident in so many ways, like how were you supposed to have that open line of communication? Like how can you, feel confident enough to know that what you're saying out loud is important enough to say out loud, because you feel like everything could be ripped away from you. Like that's a very scary feeling, especially when you're young,
Yeah. And it was like such a gradual buildup of this happening that whenever, I kind of started to think this is not good, it had almost been years. And so then I was afraid I was going to get in trouble, but I didn't say anything earlier, so it's like, it's never too late. It's never, you never just say it, just say it.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah.
I think it's important to note too that like the onus wasn't all on, it's not all on parents. Like the parents are there to help guide, but it's like so much of it is innate. I mean, it comes from within, like that drive that, I don't know how to prevent it from happening, of like attaching your self-worth to this accomplishment. I think it's so hard not to make that happen. And I can say that, well, I struggle with that, but also at the age of almost 44, but my kids are so competitive and so hard on themselves. And like, we do nothing to make that happen. That's just how they're wired, and so it's like, you can do your best to try to balance it out, but there's only so much you can do. But like from the very beginning, creating that foundation of, I love you no matter what. And you can talk to me about anything from like a young age I feel like is really, it's important in any regard, really. Right.
Yeah. Definitely. Leah, do you still swim at all, or do you not?
No, I do not.
You don't?
No, I've swam maybe like twice. I've gotten asked to do like a relay triathlon and do this.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to. I did it for so long, and it's not really even about the hurt that occurred with it. It's just, I don't know how to do it to just do it.
I totally get that.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
People always ask me if I want to go to a ballet class, and I'm like, nope, not even a little bit. I mean, like a little bit, but like, nah. Like, I don't want to be bad at it, I want to go in and be 30 something, and bad at it. So
No, I like running way more. So
good. That's so good.
This is a podcast about running.
That's right. Running's way better.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that you have found something that fulfills you. Like, I think that's one of the things that makes running so special, is it gives us back, especially for like, I don't know, it's like, I try not to say that I'm always seeking for that same feeling that like dancing on stage gave me, but in a way it is. Like, that's how a race feels for me. And I love that running gives that to so many different people in so many different ways. Like, even if they were never like a high school athlete of any kind, that they now have a platform to feel like an athlete, and be an athlete. And so for you, you have this, like, you are clearly a very athletic person, and that you've found a way to channel it as a mom too. And, I think that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, I truly believe that like running has saved me in so many ways. It brought me to this, it brought this story out, and it gave me kind of an avenue to figure things out. And oh my gosh, it's just brought a whole, now it's a career for me too. It's huge.
I think that, like you said, this happened 20 years ago, and you're like, things could be different now. I think, yes, things could be. And I'm sure there are so many rules in place, but I think it's extremely important that to just bring awareness that people get around rules all the time, and that things may be different, but at the same time, like, people are also nostalgic and want things to be like the old times. Like, oh yeah, her coach is just going to pick her up and stuff. And then sometimes it's totally fine, but sometimes it's super unsafe. And like, just to not have tunnel vision about it. I think like, you know, I like that you're talking about it so much and that we can really think about it, because I don't know that I necessarily would have thought about it, you know, even for like, because my kids are so young. Like I really haven't given this a lot of thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same.
I mean,
I thank you for being so brave and coming on and sharing your story. I really am so grateful that you've brought, because we talked about so many things that I just didn't think about. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys giving me this, you know, place to get it out there, and it's like I said, it's more prevalent than we realize, and it not to say to scare anyone, but just so that you have it on your radar, you know, not that we need another thing to worry about, but just to have it on your
add that to the long list.
Add it to the list.
It's so hard. It's like you want to be a free range parent, but then you also want to make sure that they're safe. But well, thank you so much. And so, and people can find you again. What's your Instagram handle?
Leah.runs.dpt.
Okay, awesome. And then do you have a website too?
Yeah, it's trainsmartrunstrong.com.
Oh yeah. Okay, great. Well, we'll include all of this info in the show notes. I think we have a shout out. Olivia, do you have a shout out?
I do. I have it pulled up. Just give me 1 second.
Olivia loves public speaking. It's
Leah,
her favorite thing.
Horizon. You just got a PR recently.
I did. Yeah, took me 7 years to get that.
I know.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Part about it though.
7.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did Houston.
Wow.
I highly recommend. Great.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna do CIM in December.
Wow!
Don't tempt me like that. I'm like, do I go back to my abusive relationship of CIM or do I do Chicago?
Chicago's great too. I really recommend Houston. Like, it's a great, well-supported, flat, fast.
I was signed up. I was even like in the elite masters field, but I just was not in shape for it this year. So
it's a good one. I recommend.
It's like a great race.
I've heard only good things.
Yeah.
Well,
I had only heard good things about CIM until this past. No, I'm just kidding. I ran CIM. It's a good one too. It's good. I felt like there were a lot of turns.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get away from the majors. I just need to step away.
Yeah. I personally love CIM, so I think you'll love it.
Great things about it. It's been on my list for years, so I'm trying to mark some off. Yeah.
The trees are beautiful. I know this is a podcast about running, but the trees in Sacramento are incredible.
Okay, they really are. In December too, to be on like a full, like absolutely beautiful tree-lined course, because most of the country at that time is either covered in snow or the trees are completely bare. So yeah, it is so beautiful. And finishing in downtown Sacramento is so cool. The whole thing, I don't know. I'm always like, maybe I always wonder if I'd love it as much if I didn't PR, but like, I think I would. Yeah.
Probably not. I don't.
I'm like, if
I'm speaking for myself.
Well, because like I'm always like, I loved Grandma's and I bonked there, and I would totally go do that race again because it was super fun, beautiful, well supported course. So I'm sure that anybody who ran it today is like, that was not beautiful. It was hot.
I had a few athletes run it, and it was so hot and humid.
So hot and humid. The Midwest is that is a brutal place to plan a race in the summer.
Yeah.
But also in the winter. So, it's like it's such a hit or miss place. But I'll read this shout out. We've got Kelsey. Her handle is at Kels Runs the World. That's KELS Runs the World. Just to clarify. Sorry. Proud mom.
That's a good part.
I know. Should I spell out the whole thing?
Because I love.
I should just spell out every word in this. I get really long. Proud mom of 4 amazing kids, 17, 13, and 10-year-old twins. I married my high school sweetheart, Cole, a firefighter. Family is everything. I'm a labor and delivery nurse pursuing my IBCLC certification. I think that's a lactation specialist, right?
Yeah.
In honor of my dad, a lifelong runner battling multiple myeloma, I've committed to running all 7 world marathon majors for the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation. Kicked off my journey with the Chicago Marathon and got selected for Berlin. I've also streaked for over 620 days, and my kids are in on it too. Running is my therapy and sorry, I just thought of streaking because running is my therapy and a way to build community. Some of my closest friendships have come through running. As a busy mom, juggling 12-hour nursing shifts, my husband's 24-hour shifts, and a family life filled with sports and activities, carving out time for myself hasn't always been easy, but it is essential. Running has taught me that we are much stronger and much more capable than we often realize. Every mile reminds me that the body follows where the mind leads, and that our brains are one of the most powerful tools that we have. True grit doesn't come from perfection or easy days. It comes from digging deep when things get hard, trusting yourself, and pushing through the doubt. These are lessons I remind myself of daily, and the ones I hope to instill in my kids as they chase their own dreams. I love this so much.
She's amazing.
Wow. Super inspirational.
For life.
I know. I mean,
yeah,
that's amazing. Twins.
Those words actually like hit. They're very poignant for me in this week. Like the whole digging deep and overcoming setbacks, and it's not, you deal with it being messy. It's
That's amazing. That's so cool. She's like living my dream life. I want to be a labor and delivery nurse, and then IBLC, LC, or whatever. I want to help people nurse. Get their babies to nurse. How about that?
Okay. Sorry. And now we're thinking about hot dog nipples. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. I just really liked breastfeeding, okay? And I talk about it, whatever. At least I'm positive about it, okay?
Yeah. Leah, that was another episode. I'm sorry if you missed it and you're like, what in the world? But it's one that you cannot unhear when you listen to her.
Yeah, it was like when you're like, oh my gosh, I actually recorded that and said it out loud. It's just my brain doesn't, there's not always a filter between brain and voice. So,
and that's why we love you.
Oh. Good. Now I'm sweating because I'm like, what did I just say? What am I talking about now?
I'm sorry.
Take it up. Take it.
And we wonder why this YouTube episode got so many views.
He's like, that's not free content.
I'll attach my Venmo down below, okay?
She'll attach your OF account.
Yeah.
Wine in the background?
Wait, what? Oh,
I wish.
The table in the back has like wine glasses.
Wait, in mine?
Yeah.
My virtual background does?
Yeah.
Oh. I was looking behind
You're
me.
looking, I know. It totally does. That is so funny.
Oh, that was.
You're like, wine? Where? I was like, wine? Yeah.
I can't believe I looked behind me.
Oh, that's amazing.
I truly am blonde, everybody. Oh, my gosh. Oh man. All right, Shannon, we have a lot of reviews, right?
Yeah.
Got a lot of new reviews.
Yeah, looks like this one is pretty short and brief. This one's from Run From Your Problems. Her name is Devin. She's awesome, you guys. You need to follow her. She's just so funny. She said, there's not much I can say besides I love this podcast and the host so much. So, it's actually funny because Devin is a woman of so many awesome words, and I love that it's just like this basic sentence. I'm like, that is not Devin, but I'll take that the little meager one sentence compliment.
I love it. She sums it up beautifully, right?
The best.
Yeah, the reviews really help us, guys. So keep them coming. Brief works too. So we went up a star, I think, or point, whatever. So keep it coming, guys.
Yeah, these interviews we have to be a little bit more less explicit.
Maybe that's what. Truth be told, we're figuring out our audio. I think that, has helped us quite a bit as well. So you can leave a review. Also, don't forget about our secret podcast, which is on patreon.com/Miles with Moms podcast. And we also have a lovely newsletter that Olivia has been putting together, and you can sign up for that on mileswithmoms.com. So lots of extra content out there for you guys. We have lots of big ideas, and they're coming. So, including we're planning a retreat for 2026.
Yes.
Link in our bio too. So
we'll link that.
Look out for that. Those that listen to this episode, it'll be in our bio so that you guys can click to it and go through the survey. We want to get as many surveys as possible so we get a really good idea of like where we're looking at with this retreat. So Mother Runner retreat. Okay, it's gonna
be so awesome.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, thank you everybody for coming on. Leah, thank you so much again for sharing your story, and we'll talk to you all next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.